Hello and welcome back to the Hairy Housewife YouTube channel. Do you own a Fiat 500L? Do you want to change its oil? Then watch this video and I'll show you how I do it. So hello and welcome back, and that is right, I'm going to be showing you how to change the oil in your Fiat 500L without the need to be having a ramps, jacks and all that malarkey. I'm doing mine on the driveway without jacking the vehicle up. Now, I'm not a mechanic. If you see I'm doing something wrong in this video, don't hit in the comments saying, oh, you're not doing that correct, you're not doing that right. I'm not a mechanic, I'm just doing it how I do it and to get by, so I haven't got to pay extortionate garage fees. Now, if it's your first time here, I usually review detailing and valeting products. Go check out my other videos. If you're here, you're looking to change your own oil, you're clearly into your vehicles, you're clearly into your car. So go check out those videos. I do basically valeting, I do detailing, I do challenges, I do cleaning product reviews. So go check them out. But today you are here to see me change the oil on my vehicle. So we are going to start by taking off the skid pan underneath the vehicle, if your vehicle has it. Some people might have had an oil change in the past. They might have been taken off and never put back on. I know a few garages that sometimes just toss them around the back and never put them back on, which is an absolute pain if you like to keep your vehicle all together. However, there are a few screws dotted round, so you have a few Torx head screws like so at the sides, and you also have a few bolts along the front. Now again, these are, I believe they were Phillips heads, however mine have all been literally round out by the previous sort of people before us to own it. They've rounded them all out with their screwdriver, so I'm going to be using my 10mm ratchet spanner to undo them. Now, if you want to take the whole thing off, there are another row of bolts at the back. However, all of mine have been rounded off on the bolt and in the screw head, and I didn't find it out until the first time I went to change the oil. So I am literally only undoing the front lot so I can flap the panel down, and I managed to change the oil just by flapping it down without too much hassle. Now, once you have undone all those bolts at the front, as you can see here, there are a few little plastic tabs holding it in place. All you need to do is pop your finger on those and give them a little push and it will pop down. Again, I don't know how the back end comes off. It's probably unbolt those and the back will fall down, and then you'll push the front to drop it out. But again, I don't know. I haven't been able to take the back of this off. I only flap the front of mine down and I go from there. So next we move on to the sump itself, and this is where all the oil is stored, and you can see the sump plug is at the back of that, and you can see mine is looking very oily. Now I decided to investigate why mine looks so oily, and I got the camera around there and you can see all that oil is around the sump plug itself. I popped my camera up the back of the sump and there's no oil there. It is just around that sump plug, so I bought a new sump plug to replace, because maybe the seal is gone and it was cheaper for me to buy the whole sump plug from Euro Car Parts than it was to just buy the little rubber seal for it, crazily. Now, the good thing about buying a new sump plug is you haven't got to sit with your sort of spanner or your Torx bit trying to work out what size it is by reaching up there and doing that. You can take your new sump plug, try it on it and find out which one you need. Now, these are a T40 Torx bit. Now, I can't guarantee yours is going to be the same. Again, it depends on who's worked on your vehicle before. They might have put a different sump plug in, but the ones that come on this vehicle and the one I'm putting on the vehicle is a T40 Torx bit. Now, all you need to do is go grab your oil drain pan, your ratchet and your T40 Torx bit, and you are ready to drain the oil. But before you do that, make sure you go up top, take off the oil cap so it lets a free flow of oil through the engine. Any of that oil that is sat in their engine will flow straight out. It won't get sort of sucked and vacuumed in by that lid being on. Now, all you need to do is reach up there with your Torx bit and give it a little crank. Now, I'm a little bit worried here because I've only turned mine a slight bit and the sump plug moved. I didn't even have to turn the ratchet, the sump plug just moved. Now, I was a little bit alarmed by this because that means that sump plug was loose, and the last person to change the oil in this vehicle obviously didn't tighten that sump plug properly. What you want to do with your sump plug is you want to sort of do it hand tight, and then you want to get your ratchet and give it a quarter of a turn, and that is it. You don't want to over tighten. You don't want to get there and sort of like that. You literally just want to hand tight, quarter of a turn. It feels a little bit tight. You feel it nip up. Job done. You don't want to over tighten it, but you also don't want to leave it too loose like I did last time. So as it is loose, all I have done is just popped my oil drain pan underneath the sump plug, and I am just turning it with my fingers till I get to that last little bit of thread. I just give it a quick little flick and let the sump plug fall in with all that oil, and you can see the oil is draining out. Now, if you're trying to retain that sump plug and you are trying to put a new sort of seal on it, then I suggest maybe getting a magnet and fishing it out of the oil. However, I'm not bothering. I'm just going to leave it in that oil, and I'm going to let it go into the drum that I'm draining it into. Now, when you do take your oil out, you need to get rid of it and dispose of it responsibly. I've got a friend that owns a garage. I just take all my oil to those, and they get rid of it for me. Now, once all that oil has drained out, you're going to want to remove the oil filter. Now, the oil filter is on the top of the engine bay. It's not one of those metal canisters. You have a plastic oil filter cap that you need to remove and pull the oil filter out of. As you can see, it's on the top of the engine bay. It is just up there. You can see it, just showing you with the torch. It's a little bit awkward to get to. There's not a lot of space in there. You're going to need a 32mm socket bit on a ratchet. Now, it shouldn't be too tight as long as the last person hasn't over-tightened it. And all you need to do is just slowly undo it. Again, you shouldn't need much force. However, it is very tight in there. My extension bar wouldn't allow me to get in there any better. So it is literally probably an eighth of a turn at a time until you get to a stage on where it is hand tight. Then all you need to do is pop your hand in there and pull it out. You are going to get some oil come out of it. You are going to get some oil drip down the engine bay. So I do advise stick a rag or stick something underneath it if you can. If you're not too worried, then don't worry like me. Not a great deal comes out, just a small amount sort of drips down and can make a nasty smell when that engine warms up. And now we are going on to the removal of the oil filter out of that plastic housing. Now make sure before you do remove it, you get your new oil filter and just have a quick look and make sure they look very similar. I have fallen victim before. I bought one that wasn't quite right. One end was really big compared to the one that was on there. And because I'd already taken the old one out, popped the new one in, it was covered in oil. Obviously, I couldn't take it back. So make sure it looks very similar on that end first. All you need to do is give it a little tug like that. It doesn't require a lot of force. Just literally pull it out. Job done. And then what I like to do is take the new filter out of the box already and just check again the other side is right before you get it all covered in oil. And yes, it looks right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the old filter into the box of the new filter. And I'm going to take that to, again, the guys that are disposing of my oil for me. They'll get rid of that as well. And then down to the cap itself. Now, the new filter should have come with a new rubber seal. All you need is a flathead screwdriver, pop it under there and remove the old seal. Give it a nice little wipe over to remove any sort of bits of chunky oil or grime that might be in there. And then pop the new one on. Now, it'll be a little bit tricky because your hands will be covered in oil and it'll be a little bit slippery. But pop it on and make sure you get it in the right groove. It doesn't need to go to the bottom of the cap. It needs to go in the specific groove for that oil cap. Now make sure you see where the old one was before you take it off, and then make sure the new one goes into the same place. What I like to do is put a little bit of new oil around that seal, just so when you put it on, it's nice and lubricated and goes in easy. And I also put a little bit around the thread just to help when you're tightening it up to go in without hassle. Now we check the dipstick just to make sure there's no oil on the dipstick and make sure all that oil is gone. And then I also checked underneath to make sure it had stopped dripping and there was no more oil coming out, which there wasn't. So it is now time to replace that oil filter. And it is literally just pop it on with your hand and do it up by hand until you need to get the ratchet out and then go and ratchet it. Now you don't need to do these extremely tight. All I like to do is watch what I'm doing and you'll just see it will get closer and closer and closer and you'll see the two edges meet. Once they meet, I give it another quarter of a turn and that is it. You don't want to over tighten these. They are plastic. You will strip the thread off. Just what you want to do is you'll see the metal housing, the plastic filter, and you'll just see them get like that, the edge. Once they touch, quarter of a turn, not even that, maybe an eighth of a turn. Job done, nice and tight. You can move on to getting rid of that oil. So once I pull the old oil out, I like to give it a quick check over with a torch. You don't need to do this. You don't need to worry yourself. You can buy a magnetic sump plug that will do this for you. So what you are looking for is any metal filings. It'll be shiny, it'll be glossy, you'll see it like glitter in the oil. If there is, then you know you've got a problem. But you can buy a metal sump plug that has a magnet on it that will suck all that metal to it. So you just take the sump plug out and you can see any metal filings on that. However, the oil is black. There's no glitter in there whatsoever. Sometimes I get it out of my glove, roll it between my fingers, and just see if I can see any shiny filings on my fingers. There wasn't, which means we can move on without worrying that the engine has an issue. Now, as long as you've regularly maintained your vehicle, changed the oil, and looked after it, you shouldn't have any sort of iron filings in there unless something drastically has gone wrong. Sometimes you get it when vehicles haven't had their oil changed for a long time and metal parts have not been lubricated enough and they rub against each other and start wearing, and that's what puts sort of metal filings into the oil. However, if you've regularly maintained it, you shouldn't see any of that. So now we move on to putting the sump plug back in. And literally, like I said before, finger tight until you feel it sort of do up. I do it finger tight first like this, and then I usually go in with the Torx bit by hand and make sure I get it nice and tight, and then pop that Torx bit on the ratchet and give it a quarter of a turn, and that is it. That is the sump plug back in. Now it's time to top the oil up. Now I am using Castrol 530 C2 oil, which was recommended to me by my local parts store. 530 is what's recommended in the handbook for this engine, and I am just topping it up here, little bit at a time. Don't go mad, because if you start pouring too much in, it'll overflow over your funnel. Now I don't have a funnel. All I'm using is a cleaned out, cut off Coke bottle, and I'm just pouring a little bit in at a time and checking the dipstick. And once it gets to a level on the dipstick of probably about just over halfway, I like to put the cap on, start the engine, and let it run around the engine for about sort of 20 to 30 seconds, just so it can fill up the oil filter and get around the engine. And then I like to go back and check it, and it's gone below the halfway mark, so it's time to top it back up again. And you don't need to fill it all the way to the maximum. I like to fill them just below a maximum, just so I know, obviously you're not going to overfill it, but do it a little bit at a time so you do not overfill the vehicle. And that is it. Once your oil is at a level you are happy with, you are done with the oil change. Now, one little thing I would like to show you, around the oil filler cap, there is like a little plastic rubber cup that sort of holds any of that sort of oil you overspill or dirt or grime that gets in there. It literally just pulls off. So put the oil filler cap on, give it a little bit of force, pull it off, clean it out, and then all you need to do is pop it back on. The reason you leave the oil filler cap on is because any dirt and grime that is in there, you don't want falling into the hole. So leave the cap on, pull it over, clean it out, push it back on, and then also clean off any hand marks with a high quality detailing spray. I use a quick detailer. I use it from a company called Dodo Juice. It's one of the best I have ever used. I love this stuff. I go through so much of it. Go check them out. Go check my video out on it if you're interested. But that is it. Remove all those sort of hand marks and grime. I like to clean off the top of the oil filler cap and the top of the dipstick, so when my wife checks the oil and sometimes tops it up, she doesn't get dirty hands and I don't get put in the doghouse. That is it. That is the oil topped up. Now all you need to do now is put the sort of skid pan back on. All you need to do is a reverse of what you've done to take it off, clip it in, screw it up, job done. And then I like to take the vehicle for a little ride. As you can see, I am a very happy chappy with myself. And that is it. That is the oil change done. What I like to do is come back, let it sit for about 30 seconds and check the oil level again. Make sure there's no leaks around the oil housing for the oil filter. And if you can, get back underneath and just check that the sump plug is not leaking. And there we have it, guys. That is how to change your oil on a Fiat 500L 1.3 diesel multi-jet engine. Again, I am not a mechanic. If I've done bits wrong or done things out of sync and you're a mechanic and you're saying anything, well, don't go off in the comment section. I'm not a mechanic. I'm just here showing people how I have done it and how I do it on my driveway at home without a jack and axle stands. Yes, it'd be easier if I had a jack. Yes, it'd be easier if I had axle stands. It'd be even easier if I had a ramp. It'd be even easier if I could afford a mechanic to do it. But I can't, and I don't. So I've done it myself, and this is how. Guys, I've been the Hairy Housewife. Don't forget to go follow me on the socials. If you care about your car, you obviously do. You are here watching this. Go check out my other videos on detailing and valeting products, and I'll see you all again very soon.